Hunter x Hunter is one of the greatest case studies for learning how to properly handle meandering plotlines. And no, meandering doesn't mean anything negative. It's a plot shape. Here, let's get on the same page. A meandering plot shape is a term I picked up from the Anatomy of Genres. When it comes to the various approaches to plotting, John Truby presents the idea that every genre has a visual shape for the plotline. Many stories, such as horror, action, and crime genres, use a linear plot shape since the story is a simple straight line from beginning to end. Note that these genres aren't exclusively locked to these plot shapes, but they're commonly used. Anyway, a meandering story structurally looks more like a winding, seemingly directionless path. These stories often follow one hero who encounters many different opponents and subworlds as they go about their journey. It's often used for exploration and discovery. Sometimes the exploration and discovery involves the worlds and cultures the character lives in. Sometimes they involve exploring and discovering things about the character themselves or their relationships. Either way, it's a framework worth studying, with Hunter x Hunter being the example I wish to highlight. If you can think of any example you'd like to highlight or have questions regarding these plotlines, make sure to comment. And if you find what I'm doing here valuable, I'd appreciate it if you could help make this work here sustainable by liking the video, sharing it with others, and, if you can afford to, becoming a channel member. Oh, and last thing I say before getting to the tips, One Piece is not an example of a meandering plotline. Technically, One Piece has a vortex street plot shape, which is an advanced meandering plotline. A lot of what I'll share here is relevant to that shape, but the differences matter. But we can discuss that in the future. In the meantime, let's focus on this analysis, starting with 1. Develop a rich world. In Hunter x Hunter, each location is vividly different, with its own unique cultures, environments, and challenges. Gun's home on Whale Island is different from the Zoldyck family estate, which is different from York New, which is different from Greed Island. Greed Island, in fact, is likely the biggest example of this, given the in-depth card system introduced exclusively for that arc. So, what's the takeaway here? Treat each location as a subworld, with its own rules, characters, and challenges. Devote time to understanding each culture and make each of them unique in its own location. If I were to recommend where you should place your focus when world building, it's on the following areas: religion, government, and societal structures. These are things within a setting that make up culture, which is where the story actually lies since that's what the hero will interact with. And, of course, to make up and express each of these, you're going to need a diverse cast. 2. Include a variety of encounters. Hunter x Hunter's cast is populated with a wide range of characters who bring all sorts of different things to the series. If I had to give a rough estimate, there are somewhere around 200 characters. Each character becomes an expression of different parts of the world. For instance, to name but a few examples I can point to, there's the Zoldyck family, a family of assassins who highlight themes of familiar expectations in conflict with personal desires, the Heaven's Arena fighters, who help the protagonists hone their abilities and prepare for future challenges, the Phantom Troop, whose actions drive quite a bit of the plot, on top of challenging the protagonist's morality, the Chimera Ants, which push the protagonists to their limits and force them to confront their own beliefs and values. I've got tons of tips for writing wide cast, but the one I'll give you here is this: give every character a hook. This is just something early on to help you remember who this person is and what their role in the story is immediately. There are tons of ways you can do this, such as a physical description or introducing characters in pairs or groups, but I'll discuss that in greater detail in the future. Of course, if you're going to have a wide cast, you're going to want to keep everything organized, which is why you should 3. Organize the narrative with episodic structure. Think of each installment as a mostly self-contained story with a beginning, middle, and end with the location and with the cast. You're predominantly creating closed stories. The Hunter exam arc starts with Gun deciding to become a hunter like his father did at that age, and ends with him passing the test to gain his license. The Zoldyck family arc begins with Gun and friends aiming to rescue Killua from his family estate, and it ends with the family allowing him to leave. Heaven's Arena is about going to Heaven's Arena to train, and ends with them leaving, having improved their abilities. So on and so forth. The core conflict of each arc is resolved each time. As for how I decide on the situation for each episode, I'd start by identifying which of the 8 universal conflicts I wish to focus on. That, and I'd consider the 7 story engines, which is another topic for another video. Anyway, While I do recommend leaning further into the episodic side of the story serialization spectrum, a little something I've been cooking up, it doesn't mean you have to do standalone tales exclusively. I'd place Hunter x Hunter on the center of the scale, with arc-based storytelling. So, with that in mind, 4. Weld the arcs with loose connections. While each Hunter x Hunter arc is self-contained, there are elements which continue on or come back. First, there are long-term goals, such as Gon searching for his father or Kurapika seeking revenge on the Phantom Troop. Then there are recurring characters like Hisoka, who appears across every arc up until the Chimera Ants. There are recurring elements that connect everything, like the further exploration and evolution of Nin with each arc. And of course, there are the central themes which ties everything together, such as relationships and their importance being something that runs across every arc. With me mentioning that, there is something I want to recommend that deserves its own exclusive tip with regards to the protagonist character arc. 5. Give the alpha protagonist a gradual character arc. As a whole, looking at Hunter x Hunter from Gon's POV, it aligns most with the punitive internal genre. Each story arc builds Gon's darkness and deals with a reaction to it, or stuff that deals with morality and darkness within it. The Hunter exam arc starts with Gon as a seemingly sweet kid, though we see how unfazed he is by certain things and establish traits that will factor into later events. In Heaven's Arena, we see his willingness to endure pain, his obsession with growth, and further hints of his ruthlessness. We also get Wing's reaction to what he notices in Gon and questioning what he's nurturing here. This goes on, as video essays have documented, culminating in Gon's dark transformation in the Chimera Ant arc. And in giving into his darkest side, the price he pays is nearly dying and sacrificing all of his Nin abilities. Based on the story now, which has shifted into more of a branching narrative and no longer following Gon, this is basically the climax of Gon's character arc. What follows is other characters taking up the lead role, and the resolution to Gon's quest, as he finally accomplishes his goal of meeting his father. Gon's initial story, for all intents and purposes, is complete. If the spotlight returns to him, it will functionally be a new story. So, looking at this example, what I recommend here is to decide the specific internal genre you want to do, and ensure that each self-contained story contributes to the progression of it. Instead of an episode solving their character arc, each episode is a step on the journey to whatever is being built to. The eternal journey creates a cohesion here, and thus the story. Plus, it tells you when and where the climax is, the moment of truth where the internal journey culminates, and gives you a stopping point. Basically, view each installment as an increment in the character's internal journey. There is, of course, a great deal more I can say on this topic. For instance, do you know what the internal genres are? If you want to start a journey deeper into mastering meandering plotlines, I recommend taking a look at this playlist I've put together for lessons relevant to this video.